Hello, guys. So we're going to start with Facebook advertising. So advertising on Facebook, that's pretty much one of my specialities. So this is the lovely case studies from Chocomel, where you can see how you can pick your customer journey and the marketing funnels. So you can start from awareness, consideration, and conversions. Usually where I work, so I work in retail and fashion mostly, 80% of my customers actually work through conversions, and they use awareness or consideration to build their follower base or collect leads. So mainly the conversion is always the most important because that's where you get the money from. So case studies continue advertiser Chocomel decides who to reach with their ads, when to display them, what creative to use, and what action they would like people to take. So you can see that they have already picked their the audience age between 18 to 65, which is quite a wide age, and Belgium, Germany, Netherlands, and obviously UK. So you have multiple countries, not just one country, which would mean that you would have to translate the ads into those languages as well, and probably use separate creatives to target different audience. Then obviously you have to schedule your ads. So you have to decide where you want to put your ads live. You have to specify your format, whether you want to video or single image or carousel and so on. In this case, they have picked video ads, and their objective actually is awareness. So they want to build a probably Facebook page, followers, and see how many people can reach with the page. So there's 3 levels of an ad campaign. So you have to obviously choose your objective. Usually there's more than one that you can pick from. We know that the Chocomel, on the example, they have picked awareness, but you can go for conversions or considerations as well. Then you have the reach, so you create your audience or adjust your audience. So you have selection between custom audience and the lookalike audience. Where custom audience is a list of customers or emails that you use. Obviously, you have to get the permission from customers to even use their names. So that's the most important thing. Don't ever take a list of customers, of all customers, and use them, because you're not allowed to do that. If someone finds out, you can pay penalties for that. And then lookalike audience, you can create them out of your pixel or out of your list, and Facebook will create a list automatically based on their AI of similar customers to what you have actually picked. So this is a very useful technique of actually reaching the right audience, and Facebook usually gets it right. So I would always strongly advise to use lookalike audience and use custom audience for the hot customers you would call. So for retargeting or someone who visited your website. And then lastly, you have to pick your ad format. So you have the carousel where you would use the images. Then you have single images and video. And there's actually a third one, which is called collection. So if you have collection on your website, you could use a video and images underneath. So there's actually a third option as well. And then lastly, you have to track conversions. You have to identify the right Facebook advertisement objectives. So you have to align your other objective with your business. So firstly, you have to communicate with the business that you work with or you work for. What do you want to actually achieve? So whether you want brand awareness, so that'll be more people following your business page on Facebook, or whether you want more traffic on the website, which might not convert, or maybe you want leads. So if you're a service provider, you probably go for the leads or messages. And if you're a retail business, like the ones I work with, you probably go for conversions or the catalog sales, because that's what brings you money straight away to your business, basically. And there's different ways Facebook charges you. So they have estimate, ad recall lift. So as you can see on the right side of the slide, unique reach, number of clicks to the website, or cost per click. So you can decide how Facebook will charge you. Usually you go with conversions and you go cost per purchase. Purchase conversion value is not always the best. So, I mean, you have to test and decide, but there are multiple ways of actually doing it. So determining an ad budget and bid strategy. So this is probably the most important for businesses, boards, and investors, because they're the ones that give you money to spend on ads. So first, if you already run ads, you have to find out which ads were the most performing one, which ones bring you the most profit. And those are the ones that you want to run continuously. And then you can add extra ones. You can A/B test different ads and see how they're performing. And based on that, you decide on the budget. So how much money you want to spend. In this case, you can see the budget is $300 daily, but it all depends on the business. There are different seasons to the businesses. So for example, now you have January, which is mostly sale. You probably push January a lot with your budget. So then you have to choose who you want to see the ads. So either custom audience or lookalikes, or maybe interest ads as well. And then you decide how you want the ad to look. So you have to have a strong message. You have to make sure that your ad shows everything that you want to show to the audience. So making sure that you have some kind of a CTA, so either shop now, learn more, or contact us. If you're running a sale, you have to make sure that you have a big writing saying this is a sale up to, let's say, 50%. Never lie to your customers. Always make sure you're as transparent as possible. Otherwise, if customer clicks on the ad and they see something different on the website, they're not going to buy from you. They're probably going to write some bad comments, and you're going to have to redo your ads. So that's very important as well. So how Facebook ad auction actually works and determines the total value of an ad. This is actually a very difficult one because Facebook gives you some information, but they don't actually give you all information. So you have the user value plus advertise a bit, so how much you're willing to pay, times estimated action rate. So Facebook determines how many reactions you're going to get to your ad based on your actual performance from the past. If you're new to Facebook and you have limited budget, you're actually going to pay more. So we have chats with Facebook managers on a weekly basis, and those rules change all the time. So this is why it's so hard to actually perform really well on Facebook or Instagram, because your ads has to perform really well with the reactions. You have to have a lot of budget, because the more budget you have, the cheaper it gets to run it. And you have to make sure that your users actually interact with your ads. So that's the user value to it. And that gets you the total value. Obviously, you have to track your performance. So Facebook actually has a pixel on your website, and they know how much you sell. And based on that, they're going to judge how much you should be paying for the ads as well. So setting up your budget, it's very simple. Most companies do it on daily basis. So how much you would spend per day. You could set ads where you just give them a budget, but there's a risk if you have a peak time of when people see ads, you would waste your budget, or you maybe not waste, but you could use your whole budget in one day, and you don't want to do that. So daily budget is just a safer approach for most companies. Most companies would go for daily budget, where you say you go for £100 or £11. So depending on how much you're willing to spend. So setting up your audience, that's very important. So obviously, Facebook usually wants you to go with the broad reach or broad approach, because there's lots of potential clients on Facebook. So it kind of depends how much money you have. So you go with the broader reach, then you put your funnel down and down and down. So that's why you should be running different ads. So first you would start with the interest ads, then you go with the lookalikes, and then you go with the retargeting, and that's how you get your potential customers. And then you determine based on your results which ads are performing the best, and those are the ads that you keep running. Sometimes the broader the reach, the more cost effective the ads are. So depending on the time and the budget and your message, sometimes it's not about going narrow in the funnel. Sometimes it's actually good to go wide as well. So first you have the core audience, where you target a bit wider based on their interests. So you can see it has the age 34 to 55 years old. It's localized because it's based on Tuscan, so you have only one area. Most companies would go either per country or maybe international. So the wider the better sometimes. Although if you have a shop in that area, you probably just want to reach that area. Then you have the interest, so interest in garden design, home improvement, visits home design content online. So that tells you that the audience is going to be quite wide, because interests are always wide. People are liking different interests all the time. You might be liking more than one page. So those would be the broad audience, that are called core audience. Then you have the custom audience. That's where you upload the contacts list. So either your email or your customers. Obviously, like I said before, you have to make sure that those customers, or those people who actually gave you emails, are accepting marketing from you, because otherwise you cannot use them, especially in UK. Based on the new rules, you have to get consent from customers to use their data. Then you can create a custom audience from the customer list, website activity, mobile app activity, and Facebook engagement. So, you can use the pixel that you have on your website as well. And that's very effective, because that's, I would say, hot audiences, because they're already engaging with you. They're either engaging with your page, with your website, or with your app. So those are the audiences that you would use your catalogs as well with. Then lastly, you have the lookalike audience, and this is probably the most common one used by all businesses. So this is based on either your custom audience, or people who engage with your website, or with your Facebook page. And out of those, you're creating a list of people, and Facebook will create a lookalike of those audiences. So you just pick the source, and they will generate audience. You can go from 1% to 10%, and you can create multiple versions of that as well. So you can target wide lookalikes audience, and you can go as narrow as 1% of your lookalike audience, which is very good to test as well, because sometimes the 10% is performing better than 1%, depending on the number of customers that you have and your budget. So if your budget is big enough, you can go with 10%, because you're probably going to reach the maximum number of people. Then we can go to the next slide to see the examples. So custom audience illustrated. So this is based on website traffic. So you can see where customers are reacting with your menu. So for example, here you have people reacting with your project, some people reacting with customer testimonials, contact us, and plans for sale. So on this example, you can see that they actually have picked only one version. So you can tell Facebook that you want to only react to people who actually picked one section of your website. So if they click on contact us or about us, you probably don't want to reach to those customers, because they're not interested in your product. But if they pick in your collection with your product or services, those are the most likely people that will react with your company again if you retarget them based on their views. Then you have your custom audience, so the source of that can be a source for lookalike audience as well. That's where you take your customers who already agreed to your marketing, and you upload them to Facebook, and then you can use that list for your lookalike audience as well. So here you have the ad placements. So most companies would pick all ad placements and see which one is actually performing the best. So you have your Facebook newsfeed for mobile, Facebook newsfeed for desktop, the right column on desktop, Instagram feed, Instagram stories, Messenger. There's actually Facebook stories as well. So obviously you have to create free creatives, because there's free formats that Facebook wants. So there's a square one, the landscape, and the story, so the long version. And you have to make sure that your message fits into those free formats. And that's the best way to actually do it, because you want your audience to react naturally to the ads that you have. So they look like you have taken the thought and design and put it forward for them. So they know that you're taking care of that customer as much as possible. Then you can pick the formats. So you have the carousel, you have the single image or single video, and then you have the collection ad, where you have the video or the main image at the top, and then you have the catalog images underneath, where you can pick actual products. Advertising policies. So I work with a fashion businesses as well. So like lingerie businesses, and those tend to have a lot of problems with the images, especially for the approvals. So that's always the main thing for businesses like that. So if you show a bit too much of of a body, basically, your ad might not be approved. You can manually ask for the reapproval, or you can ask if you have a manager from Facebook, you can ask them to have a look at your images and tell you how you can improve them so they get actually approved by Facebook. So there are ways around it. So for example, we have tested a few things. The darker the background is, the more likely your ad is going to be approved, even with some body shown. The lighter the background, the less likely it's going to get approved. So there are some tricks that you can go around the rules, but you should be following the Facebook rules because they can ban you for it as well. So ads are reviewed by text as well, both the description text and the text within the post as well, within the image. So before they had the rule of 25% text being shown on the image, they have removed it. However, Facebook will tell you that it's best to use that 25% only, don't go over. And from how we tested it is we use 25% and 50% text. And turns out it's cheaper to follow the rules of Facebook. So if you don't follow the rules, they're going to charge you a bit more. So, you have to think about that as well. Then you have the targeting and positioning, and then content on the ads and the landing page. So there's a lot of disapprovals just for having either the wrong landing page or a landing page that doesn't work or has some kind of an error. So that's the easiest way to fix it, making sure before you post your ad, check if your actual URL works. And then once your ad is reviewed, you get a notification whether your ad has been approved or if it has been disapproved, and then you can actually send a review and ask them for reapproval again. So you can have a conversation with Facebook if you want to, but sometimes it takes a lot of time for them to actually respond with you. So your creative can include misleading buttons. I think that's the obvious one. So if you have services, you don't tell them to shop with you. You tell them to either learn more about your company or send you a message. You cannot have before and after images. That especially is with the personal trainers or with the gyms. That's going to be disapproved straight away. Sexually suggestive images. So for example, with lingerie companies that I work with, that's the biggest issue. So even though that we work in fashion, Facebook sees it as a sexual suggestive images. Even if you put 18 plus, it doesn't matter. You have to make sure that it looks as formal as possible, where it's not always easy, especially with lingerie. And then shock and scare tactics are not allowed. You can get banned for that quite easily, actually. So you have to make sure that you're as transparent to your audience as possible, and that your creative is as clear as possible and has very clear CTAs. So making sure that you tell customers what to do and how to do it based on the rules from Facebook and Instagram. And obviously don't use outdated brand assets. So don't use old images or stuff that is out of stock. And too much text, like I said, they actually removed that rule. But the suggestion by Facebook is 25%. And if you go over, you actually start paying a bit more. I think reporting is one of the most important things for any company, because you want to make sure that you're actually getting profits out of your ads. So if you're losing money with your ads, the company that you work with or the board or the investors, they're going to tell you, we're not allowed to spend anymore because you're not making any money. You're losing money actually for us. And there's different ways how you can see your account. So you have the high level view of your campaigns. You can set your advertising objectives. You can set up your targeting budget and schedule on ad sets. And then you have the ads with creative visuals like pictures and videos, and you can analyze everything. Another very important thing is you have to set UTMs on your ads. So based on the UTMs, Google Analytics will be able to read your ads and how well they're performing with your website or with your apps. And you have to do it, otherwise you have no idea how your ads are performing. So UTMs would be one of the most important things that I always use for any ads, because that tells me, okay, this is the ad, this is how much money the ad brought me, this is how much traffic it brought me. And based on that, you can determine how your ads are performing. And then you have your customer journey. It's not always as straightforward as it looks, but usually you start with the awareness, So with the impression, organically, it helps a lot to run ads as well. Then you have the consideration, so that's your clicks to the website or clicks to the leads, to the lead forms, which usually are sitting on Facebook. Lastly, you have conversions, so that's the sales or signups, depending on the nature of your business. And like I said, conversions are usually the most important ads that you run, and that's usually 80%, especially in retail and fashion, of the ads that you're running. Then you have the conversion metrics. So you have number of sales, appointments or scheduled, lead form subscriptions or signups, because that's where you get the money from. And then you have slightly different objectives for the apps, which are gameplays, app installs, or in-app activity, which sometimes is quite hard to actually track. So app installs and gameplays are usually the easiest one, because you can set UTMs, and based on that, you can track the performance of your ads to your app. There's a few different things. So like you have Facebook Pixel that helps you get the most out of your ads. So Facebook Pixel works in a way you have to install a script on your website. So with, for example, if you use Shopify, you can actually just add the number of your Facebook. It's a short ID. And based on that, Facebook will track performance of your ads and the customers that come from the ads on your website. So they can see which pages they have visited, which collections they have visited, if they use your contact forms, if they sign up to your newsletter, or if they bought actual products from you. And based on that, you can create audiences on Facebook. So for example, if you have 3 different collections, let's say one is boots, one is coats, and one is t-shirts, you can create specific list for, let's say, boots, or specific list for the coats. And based on that, you can create your lookalikes as well. Then you have to evaluate your campaigns. So you have to make sure that you have clear reporting. So obviously you want to use the most successful campaigns for the company that you work for. Then you have the goal setting. So before you create the campaign, establish clear goal of actionable success metrics. So that's your UTM. So if you're going for sales, that's very easy to see. So if traffic from your ads is actually buying your products, that is a successful ad. If traffic from your ads is not buying product and have very high bounce rate, that means your targeting is wrong. So you have to fix that. Let Facebook learn. Sometimes that takes a few days, sometimes that takes a week or two. So this is usually based on the budget or how much people are buying. So usually for conversion, it's 50 purchases within certain time. So you have to have big enough budget, and your ad has to work on people. So basically they have to buy. If they don't buy enough, the learning phase never ends. And usually within the learning phase, you pay more. Once your learning phase is done, that's where you start paying less, and Facebook starts to target the right customers for you. And then the last one is your ad creative. So whether it's a video, single image, or carousel, or a collection, you have to make sure that your message is as clear as possible, telling customers what to do. So you have to make sure that once they see the ad, they say, okay, I understand, this is the brand, this is what they're asking me to do. So for example, they're asking me to either sign up to competition or to buy from me. So your creative has to be very clear to the customer, because that's the first thing people look at, is the image or the video.
And these are the references used for these slides. I'm really thankful to you, the guest speakers, Joe and Philip, who can be reached on the mentioned information. Thank
And
you.
thank you for the opportunity to actually talk to you, Vanya, and to the students of yours.
Thanks, Philip. You were very helpful. Thanks a lot.